Hello, everyone. This is Kerwin, and welcome to another episode of Travel Talk. And in today's Travel Talk, I'm going to be talking about it's actually a trip report Travel Talk, if that makes sense. So it's coming to the end of the year, and I had early in the year, I have a video that I showed that said, "Hey, here are some airlines I want to fly." It's December, and I haven't flown all of them. So I've added a few, but that wasn't on the list, like Atlantic Airways. I flew when I went to the Faroe Islands and back to the mainland. And I say the mainland because I went to via Copenhagen. And so now this trip is it's kind of like a number of things together in doing this trip. Well, before I begin, the background behind me is Honolulu, and over on my left side there is Diamond Head, and this is a bay that's right out there. You can't swim in this area, so as the water comes in, you swim over to my left side, or you can swim over there in essence. So, and on here on my other side, I would be a terrible weatherman because I can't figure out where's where. Um, I can figure it out. But on my right side, I got it. On my right side is Honolulu, or a part of Honolulu. The Hilton is actually right here. I think in the back over there. But today I'm going to be talking about this epic trip that I did. And what I'm going to give you an overview, and then I have individual reviews of the trip itself, of each of the different segments. So I started on Tuesday last week. And I basically went. I'm going to give you the trip and the overview. I hope I have a graphic that can show you in the background. I went from Fort Lauderdale to, Houston to Fort Lauderdale. And the object of that leg was to fly Spirit Airlines. Now, what I did, I looked at the fares and I basically choose the cheapest fare on every airline that was flying the route. And the whole objective was to try to fly 3 new airlines. The first is Spirit. I'd never flown Spirit, and I really wanted to fly them. And I think they became airline number 193. And so I did Spirit to Fort Lauderdale. I hung out with some friends in Fort Lauderdale, and then I flew Alaska Airlines from Fort Lauderdale over to Los Angeles. Now, why did I choose Alaska Airlines? The flight times were perfect. They left late, so it gave me a full day in Florida. And then in the afternoon, at night, I was going to actually do a hotel in Los Angeles, but the issue is I arrive at 10:55. My next leg would depart at 8 a.m. So by the time I arrive, get to the hotel, unwind, fall asleep, it's time to wake up because then I have to come back to the airport to depart an 8 a.m. flight. So I opted not to bother. And I was actually hoping we arrive late, and we did arrive early. So then no, that was a A321 on Spirit. That was it, A320. I think it was A320 on Spirit to Fort Lauderdale. Now, interesting enough, on that flight, Spirit is like a master marketer. They kept sending me emails for me to upgrade, and from the tiny seats to the big boy seats. And I played the game, and I did get the upgrade. And I didn't have to pay, I think it was $170 or something like that. I think I ended up paying like $48. So there is a way to get the big boy seat as long as it's available. I guess luckily I was flown a Tuesday, so they had lots of availability, it seemed. But they kept hounding me about doing the upgrade, and so I did get the upgrade in that one. From the LA to from Fort Lauderdale to Los Angeles in Alaska, I am platinum with American. So I get perks in Alaska, but none of these perks were any good because I bought a basic economy seat because it was a really, really cheap seat. And I figured it's Alaska. I only have a small bag because I had to bring a small bag because I was flying Spirit. So I only have one bag and everything I had was in that one bag. And the reason why I did that is because I didn't want to have to pay for a bag on Spirit. If my bag was bigger, I'd have to pay more. So I packed everything I needed in this bag, which is my little CES. I go to the Consumer Electronics shows every year, and they give you this bag, see-through bag. And so I packed everything in my see-through bags, which was quite entertaining because everybody kept looking at my bag trying to see. Well, you don't have to try. You can see what's in there. And so I didn't get any upgrades on the Alaska flight because I bought the cheapest ticket. Now, all along the way, they were trying to upgrade me for different pricing, but I didn't get the upgrade on that one. And they did have availability when I looked at it. And that flight was weight restricted. And so because of weight restricted, everybody had to sit in the seat that they were assigned. And I ended up having an empty row on that flight as a result. But so when I got to LA, it was 10:23, quite early. And so I decided I'm just gonna not bother to get a hotel because the hotels are actually very expensive, like $150 to $200. And I was like, that's not gonna happen. So I walked around the entire airport, watched a flight board, the last flight of the evening, exiting from that terminal, which was a flight to Guadalajara on Volaris. And the interesting thing was all the announcement for the Volaris flight was actually in Spanish only. And as I guess if I was there, I'd say, excuse me, can you do English, please? But in their defense, it looks like everyone spoke Spanish because all I could hear was Spanish. I mean, it's going to Guadalajara, right? So chances are it makes sense. I did also watch how they checked in for that flight, and there's a video I'm creating to show you a time lapse of that. I basically watched it for about an hour or something like that. And it's interesting, it's if you're a student in queuing technology, this is really something to watch. And I'll hopefully, once I load it, I'll leave a link so you can take care of it because it was quite interesting. So how did I spend the night at LAX airport? I basically walked around the airport. The beauty of it is I slept. The flight was like almost 6 hours from Fort Lauderdale to LA. And I slept for about 4 hours on the flight. So I was wide awake when I got to LA. I didn't have any lounge access in LA because there are no priority pass lounges in the area I was. I don't think there's any priority pass lounge at all in LA, which is really terrible. And I have American, but I don't have I'm platinum, but I can't use American Airlines lounge. And I'm not an Admiral Club member. I have a United Club lounge, but I wasn't flying United, so I can't use United. There's an American Express lounge, but they closed at 10. And I couldn't have used it anyway because my departure flight is at 8 a.m. and I could only get in there at 5. So more on that later. So I walked the entire airport. And then when I was finished, I found like a corner at 100 and gate 159 or something like that. The end of one of the ends of the TB Tom Bradley International Terminal, TBIT, which is beautiful, by the way. The funky thing though, inside the terminal is beautiful. The check-in area is awful. So LAX, please fix that. But once I got into that area, so I just hung out. My flight was at 8 o'clock in the morning and I had nowhere to go. So I just stayed. I was able to do a lot of work and I didn't even fall asleep or anything. But I'm sitting out in the corner and this one guy shows up and I'm like, dude, you have the entire terminal, and you need to come sit by me. Because I was going to do a video in the terminal, but then he was right there. And I'm like, I didn't want to start talking and he's right there. It was really weird. So I just didn't bother. But it was interesting to watch all the planes that come in. It's mostly cargo that moves late at night. And so it's all the 77F cargos and they're going to Asia that are leaving. So that was really good to see at that moment. it's great to see the airport wake up, and also the people who, so I walked into the airport and there was like a slew of people, and they were all there to clean the airport. And the lady who was cleaning my area, and people are so nasty. There was just like, there was drinks everywhere, and people, why are you all so nasty at the airport? The lady, she was cleaning and she was really nice. We started to talk because, of course, I had nothing to do. I was conscious that I wasn't taking up her time, but she was cleaning while she was talking to me. The issue with LAX is the area I was, it has little plugs under the seat, but they don't work. And the lady, she's really good. She knows which ones work because, of course, she cleans every day, right? So she knows which ones work, or every night. And so she said it's the ones that have the little green light. Some of them have no light and some have an orange light. She goes, it's the green light. Anything that have a green light works. There's like an entire area that had no working power. Come on, LAX. Somebody needs to go through and check those things and make sure they work. All these airports are winning awards and stuff like that. I don't know if LA has won any, but it's the little things that needs fixing, like the power. And this power thing was a thing throughout my entire flight, as you'll see, my entire trip. So long story less long, it was like 5 o'clock or about 4:30 because I needed to get to the lounge for 5. So I go, I need to start moving. So at about, and I was working the whole time, but I go, I got to stop working. I need to head back over. So at about 4:15 or so, I started to walk over. I looked at the board, as you normally do as a traveler. It says my flight is delayed until 6:30 p.m. I was like, seriously? How was my flight delayed until 6:30 p.m.? The American Express lounge doesn't open until 6. And my goal was to go over, get a shower, and then have breakfast and then come back to the gate. Well, I had to go to the Hawaiian gate because in LA, there was no one to talk to, no one. And by now, the airport was filling up because like American had an early flight to Austin and there were other airlines leaving. Because actually, American, normally the Tom Brady International Terminal is only for international flights, not anymore. American flies out of there, Delta flies out of there, Breeze flies out of there. There's a whole bunch of airlines that fly out of that terminal that are not going international. So maybe they need to rename it. Who knows? So I came back over and I went to talk to the agent and I said, look, my flight says 6:30. And she was like, well, first I had to wait for a while because the crew for the Hawaiian flight 1, I think it is, because my thing was, since I can't find anyone from Hawaiian because I'm already inside through security, I need to talk to a gate agent. So I went to the flight that was leaving at 7 o'clock to see if I could talk to an agent. I waited for a while until I think it was until like 5:30 or something like that. And finally, 2 agents came. One went to fix the jetway, but the jetway wasn't working. So then the other one got distracted trying to help her. And then I started to stand in line and people started like cutting in front of me and I said, hey, I was here first. So then I spoke to the lady and I said, look, the flight says 6:30 on the board. She's like, and I said, can you check in the system to make sure? Now, by now I had called Hawaiian, finally got through to them, and they said they show no delays. My app didn't show any delay either, but the board at the airport said the flight was delayed. And so nobody could confirm that, but they said it's not delayed. So I go, okay, fine. They said it's not delayed. Because the thing was, if it's delayed, then I have to make alternate arrangements. And that flight 1 would take me to Honolulu, but earlier, and ruin all my plans to fly the 717 and the A321neo. But there's a later flight that was going to Kona. So my thing was I was going to have somebody rebook me on the flight to Kona if that flight indeed was delayed, but it wasn't. So then I said, they say it's not, let me believe them. Let me go to the lounge. In the lounge, there's a line, of course, to get in. And people were like, who got here first? But I was paying attention. And the reason why I was paying attention is because I wanted to get in as quickly as possible and get into that lounge, get into the shower because I needed to take a shower. So I was like the third one in, only person asking for a shower, got into the shower, which was great. Took my shower, changed my clothes, which needed, and had breakfast. And then after breakfast, I left and went over to my gate, which is in the 200s, which if you're in that Tom Brady International Terminal, the walk to the gates are like 20 minutes away. If you're in like the 210 to the 225, the gates are far. So, but they do have a little walk thing that you can take, a little, what do you call those things? Electric thing that you can jump on and they'll take you over. But only do it if you look like you need it, which is really weird. They have escalator or moving walkways, but it's really, really far. So I get over there and the flight is not delayed. It's not delayed till 6:30. So we're good to go. Got on that flight, spoke to the crew, and I got in and said, "Hey, it's good that we're not leaving at 6:30." They're like, "Oh my God, did you see that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it showed on the board, but eventually they fixed it and it showed the right time and we're good to go." So I got on that flight, got over to it was like a great flight, nice A321. Then that took me to Lihue, Lihue. Landed there and I was so stupid. I thought the flight that was right next door was the flight I was supposed to be on, but my flight was actually an hour later. And so I get up to the gate and I go, I don't have a seat, which I didn't because I have the cheapo tickets on Hawaiian. And when she goes, well, you're not on this flight, you're on the next one. And I go, oh yeah, I thought that was this one. But anyway, went over to an agent, she gave me a seat. And the city is like an hour away, she said, if I walked. So I could have tried to get on a later flight, but I looked on the board and they had like 2 cancellations. So which means they were putting people on all the same flights. I was like, I'm not going to deal with that today. Besides, I was going to meet a friend of mine in Honolulu. I didn't want to keep her waiting. So then I just walked around the terminal a little bit, and part of the terminal is open. Like when I say open, like it's outside, but you're still behind security. And so it's kind of neat to see that. And Honolulu is just like that. So then pretty soon it's time to board, got on a flight, flew over to Oahu, which is Honolulu. And it's a beautiful day. So, but I was on the 717 and I couldn't really see outside because the engine was right next to my head. Because I had like row second to last. And so didn't see much, but it was quite interesting. There's a video of the landing or something like that that I'll show you. So once we get to Honolulu, then I saw my friend. She took me around. We had dinner / lunch, and then I went up to my room and I was beat. I was actually going to go down and walk around the town. Before I knew it, I was asleep. I took a shower and all that, relaxed, and then I just fell asleep. Woke up at like 6 a.m. So I went and I had breakfast at 6:30. They wouldn't give me a late checkout, which is really annoying. They said they were overbooked. I'm like, whatever. So I didn't get a late checkout, so then I had to leave out at noon. And then I ended up hanging around in Hawaii, in Honolulu. And they have a new, I was gonna go to the parade for the because this is now December 7th, which is they have the parade for Pearl Harbor, which was December 7th, 1941. And so I really wanted to go early that morning, but I was so tired. And I woke up at 6 o'clock and I didn't set an alarm. So I missed it. They have like a little ceremony there every year, and I missed the ceremony. And they also had a parade, but I decided I was going to do the parade. But before I did the parade, I was going to go take the train up because I have a new train. It doesn't come all the way to, well, the tracks are there for the airport piece, but they're not complete. So eventually that train is going to go all the way from above the airport to an area called Ala Moana, but not quite into the city. And so I took the train in. I took the bus, sorry, the number 20, which if you go to Hawaii, it's called the bus, and you pay $3, or you can buy a ticket. You need cash though. Cash to get on the thing if you don't have the card, and cash to buy the card, which is like $7.50, and you pay $2 for the card, so it's $9.50. But you need cash. So I had to go find an ATM, which cost me $4.25 to get money out. And I'm pretty sure my bank is going to charge me like $2 for other ATM or something like that. So that was an expensive bus ride. So I took the bus. It takes like an hour past the airport. and up to Aloha Moana, I think it is, stadium. And so, which I think is where they have, is it the Hawaiian Bowl? I don't know my football, but I think that's where they have the Hawaiian Bowl, if that's right. But so then the train stops right there. So I jumped on the train, took like about maybe 20 minutes on their track, and it's beautiful. It's brand new. The stations are just pristine, and the train is really nice inside. And so I took that train up to the last stop and then took it back again. And then by now it was really late. And I would have missed the parade if I went in the city because one, traffic would be snarled because they would have blocked off one of the main streets down there. And or a few of the main streets they would have blocked off. And so it would have taken me a much, much longer to get back into the city. And so I didn't bother to go to the parade. And turns out one of the one of the bands that played was actually on our flight coming back. So I got back to the airport, went to one of the lounges, and they had no food. So they do have two priority pass lounges in Hawaii. One is in the garden area. That one had no food, but I got a bottle of water. And then the other one they had was closing at 7 for maintenance. They're normally open until 10. So I went to that one, had some food there. They were only open until 10. They had signs all around. You had to clean your own table. You had to make sure you throw your stuff away after you eat, and you can't take anything out of the lounge. They had signs that said all that. I guess they have a little issue with that. So at 7, they kicked us out, and I was doing some work again. And then I just started walking around the Honolulu airport, which, by the way, things start to close at a certain time. And I'm like, your airport still have flights going out late at night. Why are you closing things all over the place? So a whole bunch of places are closed. All the food, like there was only 2 food places in Terminal C, which is where the American departure was. But most of the stuff in the rest of the airport in like F, G, and H were open because that was busy with Delta, United, and Southwest was also in that area. But the area that had American, not many people. I think American had like maybe one flight to Dallas, and my flight to LA. And so I just did a lot of walking in the terminal. Then I came back, waited for the flight, and then the band showed up. When the band showed up, it was like, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 people. And it's this high school, so they're all young kids, and they have like 3 or 4 chaperones. But I was like, oh my, I just started shouting, if you need to use the restroom, go use the restroom now. So it was really kind of entertaining. And that airport has no plugs. I found a plug, it wasn't working. So one of the kids from the band came over and he plugged this up, and I go, I don't think it's working because I just tried it. But then there was also another plug on top, and he goes, oh, maybe I tried this one. I go, I didn't see that one. But that one didn't work either because they're connected to each other. Now, the interesting thing is there's an area. So Southwest, when you go to Southwest terminal, they have plugs everywhere. So because what they did, they put plugs up in between the seats. And I'm guessing that Southwest is the one that paid for that. The rest of the airport, no. There are no plugs at all. And I'm like, come on, Honolulu, you could fix this. Everybody needs a plug. Because on the Hawaiian flight, was it a Hawaiian flight? I don't think I had the plug. Oh, I did have plugs on the Hawaiian flight. It was the Alaska flight. No, I had plugs on the Alaska flight as well. I'm getting confused now. It's the Spirit flight, of course, that didn't have any plugs. But I was on an upgrade list for the flight. And I thought, well, I mean, American has power to the plugs anyway, because it was A321 and they do have power in economy and in first. So I was on the first, it showed one seat open and I was number 1. I was like, yes. And eventually I did get the seat. Now here's what somebody did, me. I sat in the wrong seat. I just wasn't thinking. And instead of sitting on the left side aisle, I sat on the right side aisle. Now, when the people came for that seat, they saw me sitting there and didn't say anything. I noticed they kind of looked at me weird, but they never said, hey, you're sitting in my seat. They just sat in the other 2 seats on the other side. So I didn't think anything was wrong until the guy for that window at the A side showed up. And he was like, that's my seat. And they were like, he's in our seat. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that. Luckily, it's window to window. So the guy just sat in that window. And I was like, I didn't realize somebody should have said something. But no, so it gets worse. The flight attendant comes over and she's getting the orders. And the orders are mixed up because somebody sat in the wrong seat. But anyway, flight continued. Got to LA first thing in the morning. And then I had to wait because I can't use the lounge until 3 hours before my flight. And my flight departs at 1:02. So 10:02 is my time. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to walk the airport again. So I walked the airport again. I got over to Terminal 7 and I decided I'm going to walk from Terminal 7 all the way back. Now, LA does have Terminal 1, 2, and 3. I think 3 is connected by a bus to like 7 or Bradley. But 1 and 2, I don't think you can get to 1 and 2 unless you go outside. Now, Breeze is my next airline, checks in at Terminal 1, but it departs from Bradley. They have a bus though, and the bus will take you from Terminal 1 all the way over to Bradley, which I wanted to take, but it just didn't work out because of timing, because I needed a shower again, right? So at 10 o'clock, I got into the lounge, got my shower, didn't have to wait too long, had breakfast, and then it was time to go get the flight at 2:10, which is in that long 20-minute walk again. So I did a 20-minute walk, got over there, spoke to the agent, got a boarding pass printed because oftentimes my phone will go off as soon as I need to scan something. And plus, I needed to record stuff, right? So she printed a boarding pass to me, which was great. No issues getting on Breeze. Really nice airplane, A220. Flew to Pittsburgh, got to Pittsburgh just in time to see my Frontier flight one gate over, which was brilliant because I didn't have much time. I had like less than an hour to make that connection. So any delays would have been weird. By the time I got off the plane, they had already been boarding, but I had zone 4 or zone 3 or something like that. They moved my seat because of weight restriction. So got on the flight, no issues. Had the dirtiest tray table I'd ever seen. And you can see the photo. And got to Orlando, all is good. Got off my flight. I got my bus to my hotel. Thing with the hotel, I called them. The thing transferred me to the driver's number. It rang and it went to voicemail immediately. Called the hotel again. They transferred me. It went to voicemail immediately. So I called again and I said, look, it's transferred me to voicemail. So she said, well, I'll try to find the driver. While she's on the phone with me, she saw the driver outside. She told him to come get me. When he comes to get me, he's mad at me. I'm like, well, why are you mad? He goes, well, why didn't you call me? I said, I did 3 times. And he goes, well, my phone didn't ring. I said, I don't know what to tell you, but I called you 3 times. And he had a little attitude. And then I said, why don't you call your own phone? So he did. Went to voicemail. And so, but he's getting mad at me. Dude, it's not my fault. Your phone isn't working. So he rebooted his phone while we were driving. And then he called it and it worked. He goes, oh, I don't know what happened. I go, me neither. So I get into the hotel. They wouldn't give me, I was so hungry, so I went to get food at Dennis next door. They wouldn't give me any late checkout again for tomorrow. So I had to be out at the 11th. And I was like, God, 11, my flight is at 10 o'clock at night. So the next morning I came down and I said, hey, can I get a late checkout? She goes, no. I said, really? And their 11 o'clock checkout, at least Honolulu was 12. And so she goes, well, you can get until, I think she gave me until 12. She gave me an hour after I kind of had this puppy face for a little bit and looking really sad. And then she goes, okay, you can get an hour, but we need the rooms because partly it's the hotel that's used by the cruise ship and all the workers are coming in. And surely enough, when I came down the next morning, there's a bunch of Filipino guys because that's a lot of the crew members are from the Philippines. That's just a reality. And so they were all out there and they were being picked up by the same driver. Now I managed to speak to, I had breakfast at the hotel too. I managed to speak to one of them because he had arrived at the wrong hotel. So the driver took him to a different hotel. And he's like he had an interesting job. He's a guy that works the trash. He's a trash guy on the plane. And I said, God, it must really smell. He goes, I have to take care of my family. And so, it's interesting the kind of jobs that people have within the industry. And he said, they do have something that they spray the trash with so it doesn't smell too badly. And they do trash compaction and things like that. So it was interesting talking to him for the like 5 minutes. We were in the car. So then there's another girl on the bus, and she was like, she worked for JetBlue and she was sick and she had to stay over 2 days and all kinds of stories she had. So I got to the airport and I was actually going to try to get an earlier flight on Spirit. Yeah, and sorry, on Frontier again. That was my last leg now. But that didn't work out. And you can find out about that in the video on the review of that. So I basically hung out in the airport, and all on the airport is a mess. Like, come on, airport people, fix it. It is just people, wall to wall people. It takes so long for people to get through security. Of course, TSA pre and Claire has no one, or little or no one. So then I just walked around and I went to Terminal C because the main terminal is a mess, and I just don't want to deal with that. But I know that there's nobody over Terminal C. So I went over to Terminal C because I had taken Brightline before, and I went to Brightline where the Brightline entrance was, or terminal station, and there's nobody over there. And so I sat at the end. I had a great view of the takeoff runway, and so I took a whole bunch of videos from there and worked like, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. And I had food with me, so I was able to eat and water and stuff like that. And after that, it was almost time. Well, like I said, 7 o'clock, I could go into the other lounge. So because there is a lounge, it's a Club LAS. So I went to that lounge and hung out in that lounge for about 2 hours. It's really tiny. The food was awful. And they don't have any non-alcoholic beverages, like wine or beer, non-alcoholic, none of that. And then I saw there was a flight on the Frontier board that said it was going to Houston at 8:30. So I went over the gate like about 8 o'clock just to see what it was, and an airplane was pushing back from the gate, but there was no flight going to Houston at 8:30. Like there was no agent there, there was nothing. So I think that must have been like a special section because it had a funky number. Like a 9,000 something number. And so it pushed back and it left. But the flight that was actually there was going someplace else. When I looked at it on Flight Radar 24, it wasn't a flight to Houston, so who knows. But my flight was at 10. So I got on that flight. All's well, did some work. I fell asleep for a little bit. Got to the airport, picked the rental car, got home, and realized that I left my computer. Because I left the computer right at the same seat I was sitting, and I go, looked at the schedule, saw that Frontier has a 5:45 flight back to Orlando from the same gate that I left. And so I took a shower, changed clothing, went back to the airport, stood online waiting because I need to talk to the agents. I saw a TSA guy and I said, well, my Find My Mac shows that the computer is here at the airport. He goes, well, you need to get a ticket from the people if you want to come in to see it, to find it. So I went to the counter and just standing there. People started showing up. This lady showed up. She had this red thing on and, lots of makeup, and I don't know where she was coming from. She put on a jeans over the red thing, and the top had like holes on the side. I seriously had no idea where she was coming from. You can, make up your own idea, but, and I'm like, so when you see these things about people dressed really badly on planes, it happens. The guy next to me was aghast because she was changing her clothes right there. And I'm like, lady, could you just go to the restroom? We will hold the space for you. Go. No, she didn't. She changed her clothes right there. Disgusting. So she changed her clothes. So then the agent finally showed up. And when the agent showed up, everybody's like rushing the agent. I'm like, wait, it's my turn. I was the third person here. It's my turn. this guy had like 3 bags. So it was like 300 and something dollars for those 3 bags, 104 a piece. And he never checked in the line. So it's like 25 bucks if he's going to do that. That girl who was changing her clothes, she didn't check in online either. She had her carry-on, didn't know it was going to cost her extra at the airport. And then she proceeded to argue with one of the agents. The agent's like, you have to pay for that carry-on, ma'am. And she just kind of left her. So she never checked in online either. She had all kind of issues trying to check. I was trying to help her a little bit, but she kind of like, I'm checked in. And I'm like, the gate agent is telling her she's not checked in. So she kind of had an attitude. And it was too early in the morning. It was like, by now it was like 4:30 and I just didn't want to deal with it. And so spoke to the agent and he said, yeah, there's a computer on the plane. What's your name? I told him. And he said, oh, let me go get it. So he went and he got it, asked me for my ID, and I got the computer back, thankfully. By the time I got home, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. I was super tired, but it was a really good trip. I got all the golds worked out. None of the flights were delayed. Everybody left on time, which was really, really sweet. Either on time or close to on time. It was perfect. Everything went really, really well, except for me leaving the computer on the plane. So overall flying. So the low-cost carriers I flew was Breeze, Spirit, and Frontier. I still have to fly Sun Country, Allegiant, Avelo. But I couldn't find any itineraries that would incorporate those three in that I wouldn't have to spend a fortune. Because although the low-cost carriers says they're cheap, by the time you buy everything, you might as well take in a full-service carrier. That guy that was spending $300 just in his bags alone, if he had taken, say Southwest, because Southwest fly Houston to Orlando, I don't know what his final destination was, but if he had flown a regular airline, he would have probably paid less because he wouldn't have to pay for the bags. Like Southwest doesn't charge you for the bags. And United is like 35 bucks for the bag or something like that. So I don't know why he was flying Frontier. I wanted to ask him, but it was too early and I just didn't want to get into people's business at that early in the morning. But anyway, all in all, it was a good flight. And that's hard. It took forever to tell you the story. But this is Kerwin with PassRider.com and CruiseOnTree.com on this trip report that went from let's see, Houston to Fort Lauderdale, Fort Lauderdale to Los Angeles International, Los Angeles to Lihue, and then Lihue to Honolulu, and then Honolulu to Los Angeles, Los Angeles to Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh to Orlando, Orlando back to Houston. And I was able to fly Spirit, Alaska Airlines, Hawaiian Airlines twice, American Airlines, and then I did Breeze, and then Frontier twice. So thank you so much for listening. There should be photos and stuff in here as I went through, so hopefully you get a good idea. If you get any questions or comments or anything like that, please let me know. I'm going to try to get an itinerary to take care of the other three. I'm going to Las Vegas for CES, but that's in January. So I kind of need to do them before the year ends. Otherwise, I'll just have to do them in January or whenever else I get them done. But this was fun, tiring, but fun. All right. Thank you so much and have a great trip.